Doesn't seem there's any sound.
Ah, I can hear you. I can hear you, Nancy. I can't hear them.
Okay.
The owl.
Here we go.
It's weird. It's in and out. Sometimes I can hear them and sometimes I can't. Well, now I can't see anybody. Oh, there they are.
Yeah.
Can you hear us?
We can.
Okay,
Hey,
then we're back.
online.
You can hear us too, Nancy?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any questions on the minutes?
I had one question.
Yeah.
The police, I always thought that they had a smaller hybrid rather than the Explorer. The Explorer is a larger vehicle.
It's the only thing out there now.
Really?
That's all they own.
That's all they
are
have?
now. That's what they've been getting for the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, I noticed. I thought it was the Escape.
No,
But-
no, the
Hybrid.
Explorer is the only thing out there that's,
Okay,
that Ford is making as cruisers. The only other thing out there is the Chevy Tahoe.
okay, which is much larger.
Yeah, it is. Any other,
I have
Yeah.
a small, on line 103, where it says SCBA, could we just spell out the acronym? I had to look that one up. I wasn't familiar with it.
So, same breathing apparatus.
Yeah.
You
yeah,
never heard of Jacques Cousteau?
air packs?
He invented it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Small point on line 34,
Okay.
very small. Explain that the police department need to add the word adding an additional cruiser.
Yes, is adding an addition.
And line 36, the word is brand.
Yes,
Yeah, brand.
right.
Yeah. Not so bad. It's also.
Typo something.
Yes,
Not to be
Very much.
picky, but 35 has 2 double dot factor years.
35 has 2 double what's?
Dots.
Oh.
So dot.
I will accept a motion if someone wants to make it.
I move we accept the minutes as very marginally amended.
Second.
Okay, we have to have a,
All in favor?
no, because we have to do it on, because we've got somebody
Oh, yeah.
online. Dimitri,
I approve.
Brad,
Abstain, I wasn't there.
okay,
I'll abstain, Whitney Basham.
Dave,
I approve.
I approve. Keith approves.
I approve.
Jim approves. Passes 5-0
I've
to
heard that 1,000 times, I'm sure.
Yeah.
2 abstentions. Okay, CIP plan review, Public Works, CIP review.
So there's been no real changes to your paperwork, maybe a little one, I mean. DPW one, we'll go through facilities too, but
We can do that.
start on DPW, the one change that we made after the last
Page.
discussion was moving the 85,000 from this year for the DPW paving driveway in front of the shelf shed.
Uh-huh.
And then did we add it in there? Oh, it's under facilities, huh? You added the sidewalks in there. So,
Yeah.
we did do some research after Tracy's comment at the select board meeting. And we put a placeholder of 17,000 in grants and other. It's actually gonna end up being a little bit more than that. And then recommending $23,000 be spent from CIP to cover the sidewalk replacement that we did this year. So that would be out of the 2024. We could put it in the 2025, but
So where do we think the 17 is gonna come from?
the sidewalk reserve that you mentioned.
Oh, excuse me, thank you.
Yeah,
A refresher, thank you.
And it's actually gonna be a little more than that. We just got
Right.
some notes from the trustee of trust funds and they're getting their final settlement right now for that case. So we'll know what we have in there. We can get rid of that.
we get rid of
Spend that
everything.
That'd be
money,
nice,
put it on
yeah.
the warrant to get rid of that reserve.
Okay,
So we could, now that is one of the items that the select board is authorized
Yeah.
to, spend. But then we can add it as a warrant item for March to delete that.
Yes, that's
Great,
the plan.
perfect.
the 40,000,
Cleans things up.
Yeah, and that'll
right,
get rid of the 40,000 at a cost of about 20 to 23,000.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then we won't have to get a loan. We won't have to pay interest. I think it's the right way to go on
Yeah.
that sidewalk.
Yeah.
CIP for 23 and
So you said
Reserve
twenty
17.
twenty-four, but. it's
Yeah,
just-
we did the paving. We're gonna have to pay for it this year. I just thought we put it on the plan under 2025, but we should make that decision while we're having this meetings if we want to
Right.
recommend to the select board to do that spending this year.
and you're still comfortable that that money can be spent out of budget as opposed to financed this year? 24.
Well, if we take it from CIP, then it's not coming out of the
Right,
budget. It's coming
because
out of CIP.
it was approved CIP.
It was a-
5 years ago.
It was approved at the.
Actually, it was approved finance 5 years ago. If
Yeah.
you
Well,
look
yeah,
it up,
because-
it's financed
Right,
back then.
We just
Right.
don't wanna, we can go take a loan this week from Mascoma Bank, but I don't think it's prudent use of
No.
taxpayer money at this point.
So we don't need to approve the spending because that was done years ago. The
Right.
only thing we're essentially approving is we're not gonna get a loan,
we're gonna pay cash.
we're just gonna pay cash.
Out of
And
the
we're not
CIP.
doing it for 50, we're doing it for 23.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think the actual, we haven't got the final bill, but it's gonna be a little less than 36 to 40,000, and then we'll have 17 something
That
to
will
spend,
pull out of,
and the rest will come
Okay.
from CIP.
Yeah.
The select board has authority
Yeah.
to spend CIP without going to town meeting,
Right, because plus it was already approved anyway.
and it was approved for financing,
right,
And the labor is in the budget.
the labor's in the budget. Yeah.
Do you have any idea what the total is? And I mentioned this for planning purposes. Are you able to put together a budget for the next phase?
Yeah, we'll be working on paving for next year and sidewalks for next year.
So we're not gonna put anything in the 25 in the next year for that project.
I think we're about to a point, we haven't got final numbers yet. If we need to come back, we will, but I think we're to a point where we can put a small amount into the budget every year and maintain an up.
Can do it that, so for the next phase, you would do it out of the budget, you're thinking?
I think so, yeah. We don't have a lot left, and what we do have left is in pretty good condition. I don't even know that it's
Yeah.
gonna have to be done next year.
Yeah, I don't know if you've had a chance. I did walk it. It is in pretty good condition, as a
It
matter
is.
of fact.
Mm,
Yeah,
I don't think we do it just to do it. It's when it
Yeah.
needs to be replaced, we'll replace it.
yeah.
yeah, cause the original 40 was just for Main Street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was basically to go over the stuff that was the bricks.
Yeah.
By the way, what is the current that we can get finance rate anyways? Okay, just the
It
curious.
depends. I haven't called the bank, but I'm guessing it's probably in the fours.
You think it's in the fours for a
Yeah.
municipality still?
Yeah.
Yeah, cause they're still giving 4.95 on on CDs, so.
It dropped last week.
No, I got it today.
Did you get one today?
Yeah,
After this, tell me which bank.
the one he was gonna go to.
Oh, well, okay.
So yeah, with that, if you guys would like, I'd turn it over to Jim to go through both the facilities and the DPW, but that was the change that we made from last time that you guys saw.
Yeah.
So for completeness, can we not have it in 2025?
Yeah.
If it will actually happen in 2024?
Yeah. We'll pull it.
Otherwise, the numbers during the town meeting.
Yeah, no, it'll come
will be
out,
off.
because it shouldn't be spent in 25 when it's spent in 24.
The other one is, how much of the paving we're gonna do at Hughes Park? The whole thing, or just our half and not the,
I priced it with the whole thing in mind. I don't,
right?
that was what I think we talked about, but
What do you need
Okay.
an hour half?
Well, there was the original. Where the parking next to the community building on the right of it.
Uh-huh.
Was later than the other side. The other side was the original Hughes Park paving. That's in pretty bad shape.
It never got
Yeah.
topped.
Right,
That's a base coat.
yeah,
That never got,
right. But the other side is in good shape.
yeah.
Yeah,
But we can have that conversation if we wanna
Right.
try to feather in and make the other last, or just,
yeah.
because we're gonna have to redo some of that side, and then if we
Yeah.
just did a light top coat over the whole thing.
Right.
So the side that's really bad, are we gonna have to like take it out?
no,
No?
No, I don't-
it's not
No.
broken up. It can be covered.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Cause I'd hate for us to, if it's bad, cover it.
no,
And then
because
2 years
you
later,
patched a lot of it this year too.
yeah,
There's a
I'll call it the
wood patch.
playground side. That
Right.
was,
Yeah.
we had a big, culvert that goes from
Right.
across Route 4 down to the river, and that had destroyed
Right.
probably a good third of that piece. So we
Right.
had based that in and we had
Yeah.
covered that, but, yeah, that one never got a top coat. It just
Right.
had some base patch and so forth.
Yeah.
And then the other side, yeah, that was done, yeah, before that,
Before.
when the community building.
But
was done.
building was.
So you think just,
Yeah.
you know, light shim in places and then,
Yeah, I mean,
Go down.
I think it makes sense to do it all at the same time, so then you don't have to blend the levels.
Yeah.
You can address some of the drainage problems that we've had near the catch basins.
could we do
Black patch
something
stuff.
similar to what they did on Shaker Hill? And like start on an inch on that west side and then
Yeah.
do like
Oh, yeah,
down to
yeah.
3/4, half
Right.
inch on the other?
Yeah,
Yeah, definitely.
Half-inch base is tough.
Yeah, we might come down to 3/4. -ish.
Yeah, it's actually.
What, so the 50,000 budget, is that, Jim, in your opinion, based on a
That's-
1-inch top coat?
That's an
over
inch
everything?
top coat on the whole
the whole thing.
Yeah.
67,000 square yards, or
Right.
whatever it is.
Yeah.
By the way.
So which leads me,
Whatever happened to the, the community building with the roof and how the water was coming off the roof and everything? Was that ever addressed?
We put a new roof on.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, there's a new roof on.
Oh, Okay.
But we haven't had any drainage issues that I'm aware of,
okay.
along the eaves there.
Right.
Is any changes to Hughes Park layout overall? So a while, was last year we talked about fixing the net. We just then decided not to do that because we were considering potential changes to Hughes Park
Yeah,
as a
there's-
whole.
There's been nothing done.
Right,
We're also waiting on the state to figure out what they're gonna do at the intersection of Main Street and 4.
we won't live long enough.
so, but it's, and,
Hence the reason,
yeah,
Right,
I think we have a small cost here to make sure that the parking lot's in good shape. I think we're,
right, but we're not thinking of changing the parking.
Few
lot if
years.
We ever do something.
I don't know what we might do, but I think if we do, it's years out
Right,
in the near
and
future.
it won't impinge on the parking lot itself.
No, and if it does,
There's
it'll be
enough
small
space.
sections in
That's
the
what I
little
mean.
area. It won't be a large parking.
Right.
Since we're on the topic of paving, it sort of works in. What's your decision on the Whitney Hall paving?
That's gonna be done this year.
You're gonna do it in 24,
Yeah, we have TIF money already in the budget for that.
right? I know it was designated to be TIF money, so you're hoping to do it in this calendar year, okay,
Yeah, it'll be done as part of the Whitney Hall project,
okay.
which
You-
should be
using
substantial.
Using TIF financing to
Yeah,
pay for
TIF
that.
will pay for some of the parking lot. It's gonna be a conglomeration of putting
Yeah.
stuff together to make that parking lot what it is. We had to do some subsurface drainage with that money, some of those types of things.
We could also use TIF financing for the Hughes Park lot then.
I don't know. I'd have to look at what we put on the TIF plan. We can't just use TIF money to use
It's
TIF
there.
money.
It's there.
Yeah,
Improvements to the community center and Hughes Park are on the TIF plan.
right.
I don't know.
And if it's not already on there, we should put it on for town meeting.
It's there. I looked
Public
up today.
parking should be one of the
Yeah.
projects onto the TIF, I
Yeah.
think, anyway.
So there's a choice. I don't know. There's a choice
Of where you wanna fund.
of how we wanna, now admittedly, that's a financed project if we did it that way, but it's through TIF financing.
No,
No,
It
it
would
could
be
be cash. They've got,
Yeah.
we have plenty of cash in the TIF.
We have plenty of money in the TIF account, do we? Okay.
We actually have more, so if it qualifies under TIF, it should be done as TIF, not as CIP. In my opinion.
I tend to agree.
yeah,
If, and I'm gonna put this caveat that I put to the TIF people, if it lends itself to economic development in the TIF. area, which public parking would,
does.
Yeah.
Which public parking certainly does. Yeah,
cause part of our tours with developers was,
Right,
if you don't have enough parking, we have these public municipal parking lots.
yeah,
so. I advocate then that the Hughes Park lot be repaved 1 inch.
Mhm.
Feathered if you thought it could work. But financed through TIF.
if we can do it through TIF, then I would agree.
I would not disagree.
Okay.
So we want to do more facilities or is that?
Those are the only ones on our
Uh,
sheet.
facilities.
Yeah, let's finish that sheet.
Yeah.
The only thing is, I'd like to put a number in for the placeholder at Shakoma Beach. Question marks don't do it for me.
Okay, we can work on that. We won't have it tonight.
I just,
Well, before we get that, you need to just tell me, what do you want to do there? Because there's
We
all
actually-
different kinds of,
We pushed your
Things-
idea
yeah,
through the select
Yeah.
board. The select board has pushed it to the rec commission to
okay.
vet that idea.
Yeah,
So we need
But
to get it to them, but we can
I
get
can
it.
rough out that if you want.
My
I mean,
guess,
if you could rough out
Yeah.
that, because I just. Question marks don't do it for me.
my guesstimate's about 75, but that's exactly what.
I mean, you could even limit it to engineering only if you want. For that,
Well, it could be done.
For that
in a couple
placeholder.
of different, it could be done in a couple, like the engineering and permitting would be 1 year. And that, it would
Yeah.
probably have to be that,
It
because
would-
that's,
I
that's
think
gonna
would-
be a
I think would
6-month
have
permit,
to be
I
that.
guarantee it.
no question.
yeah.
What is the intention of this Shakoma Beach? What
It's
is,
it's a deal, I don't know if you've been by it, but take a look at it, because right now we're getting terrible erosion kind of right down the middle of it right now.
oh, really?
And there's 2 or 3 ancient retaining walls that were old railroad ties. And they're disintegrating, they're crumbling. And,
Is
those
that on
need
the
to be,
beach portion or on the parking portion?
it's on the beach.
The,
Yeah.
They're about halfway down to the railroad ties and they're rotting out.
Yeah,
We had talked about putting sand on it, but we'd have to, 1, get a shoreline permit, but 2, we know sand contaminates the
Keep going
water.
down.
And the more we dump sand and let it wash in, the
exactly.
more we're contaminating the lake. So by adding a couple tiers there, we can add a natural section on the bottom, a sanded section that's contained in the middle, and then
And,
some grass and
Yeah,
picnic area. on
Pebbles,
top.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
It'll be a cost, but not extreme.
That's what the state allows. They allow you to perm the sand.
We talked about that being paid through a grant, correct?
You would, it's something that we could definitely put forward for a grant. We'd have to have it designed first.
Yeah,
So we probably should put a little money towards design
Yeah.
and
That's where I'm thinking is put some design money in there and
yep, let's do that.
next year we'll add
Yeah,
the funding money.
yeah,
Maybe by then something's evolved.
yeah, we can definitely look for some
Yeah,
grants
I've
to
got-
put in for.
Yeah.
I've got less an issue with it now that we're moving some, that we're using TIF money for paving, because I was having a real issue with all of a sudden, we're starting to spend all kinds of money on recreation out of CIP.
Yeah.
And I didn't think that was the original intent of CIP.
What's the contaminant in sand? What's wrong with sand on a beach?
It usually adds phosphorus
Yeah.
to the water. You're not supposed to put sand, especially sand not from the area.
Not from the area.
Are they gonna are we planning on doing anything for the people trying to get across from the parking lot down to the beach?
I think the
Any-
eventual design would
anything gonna-
probably include the kinds of, crossing lights that we just installed at
Yeah.
the Enfield Village
That
School.
would be a good part of the plan.
That,
should
I
have-
Yeah,
think, should be
because the fact
part
that
of the plan.
I know coming, east, I guess it is, you'd say, east, you don't see the person standing down there
No,
waiting to get across.
no.
You can't
No.
see them. And then all of a sudden you're on top of them and you have
That's
no
right.
chance to stop without causing somebody to smack you in the back.
Another part of this plan was to put some decorative planters like they have by Three Tomatoes and Salt Hill out in front to stop a car from veering off and being into the beach, which the police chief's a little nervous about right now.
And it's
Okay.
right to be nervous. That's a needed item. One other thing I'd like to consider for the facilities request. I think there ought to be a placeholder, maybe even some money this year, to look at the fire station and the Depot Street buildings, which are going to be in all likelihood available before 25 is out for, contamination inspections. I think we need to be ahead of the curve. Otherwise, you're gonna have to come back to us in July and say, I need X thousands of dollars.
Actually, that's usually paid for by the state.
It may be, but I'd rather have something in here and maybe it's paid for by the state. But I don't want you to have to come back in July and say, but I can't put them on the market because I need X dollars to have them inspected first. Because I want them to be on the market by mid '25 because they're gonna be empty.
We haven't paid for ground sampling for anything.
Well, it isn't just ground sampling, it's interiors. The fire department, you know, in all likelihood, given its generation, has asbestos.
Yeah, but that wouldn't be ours to mitigate before we sold it.
Well, we may have to in order to be able to put it on the market. The same way we had to deal with Shed Street, we would have to deal with the fire station to put it on the market. I also don't know if there's any asbestos in the Depot Street building, being a former train station. Same problem. To put it on the market, we may have to deal with these contamination issues. I don't think we can put them on the market
Yeah,
and say contain, may or may not contain asbestos.
My opinion of Depot Street, state wants it, state can have it.
Well, they don't want it.
Well, no, but they want us to pay for the land under it.
I'm
I'd
not
say-
suggesting buying the land under
Well,
this
no,
budget.
but what I'm saying is,
Personally, I
saying-
think it's too early to put money in for there. We don't know what
Yeah.
the select board wants to do with it. We,
right,
Well, we know we want, the select board has a consensus in our history that those buildings are intended to be, sold.
that
That's
has
known.
not been discussed.
We did last year. We discussed liquidating those buildings, that they would be in the plan. If you're comfortable that, you know, come middle of the year, you're not gonna come back and say that this holds us up from marketing those buildings, then okay.
I wouldn't throw a number at them now. I wouldn't even know what to throw at it. Like I said, the testing usually comes from the state. I disagree. I think we could sell them with lead paint and asbestos in them, just like you do every other house on the market right now. Shed Street was a little different because we were taking those down. Then we have to take it out. But the ground sampling, you know, to bore that usually comes from the state.
And just put your question to rest, the state has not moved on their suggestion of an offering price for the land under Depot Street,
No, it's in the select board's hand at this point.
but not really in our hands. It's just sort of linked. We don't know anything.
I can talk to the Upper Valley Regional Planning. They were gonna do some outdoor sampling.
Okay,
That has not been done, but
yeah. Okay.
they're not gonna do any indoor sampling.
No. There was some outdoor sampling that was suggested.
So
Right.
Okay, that hasn't. Okay.
it has to be the select board's decision. We can bring it back again if we're gonna buy that land or not buy that land. And the state made their offer. It's our job to go back and say, the people that made the offer can't negotiate. The legislature negotiates, so it's gotta go into the legislative system.
Okay.
So it's a long, lengthy process. If we
Right, I
wanna
know it
do
is.
we
Yeah,
need
no,
to
I'm not,
get it
I'm not
before the-
suggesting it by any means.
Yeah.
I'm just,
You know, if we want it to be 2025, we need to get it now so it can go into the legislative session. If not, it's gonna be
and then I think
2026.
if you, then I would ask you as the select board liaison to add that to the select board for consideration for 2025, because you've now given us a sense of confidence that the public safety building will be completed within 6 months of 2025.
Yeah.
So I think it's appropriate for us to think about that.
I can bring it back.
So the state owns the land, we own the building?
State
Yeah.
owns the land, we own the building.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that makes it complicated.
It does.
I think that,
No,
I think
but-
the building can be sold and someone can figure it out with the state. I don't think it has to be us.
The big issue is the land, because there used to be an oil company there.
Really?
There's an oil depot. Fuel trucks in and out. The first item on the facilities, I think, can be dropped. The one that says DPW building improvements, et cetera, et cetera. We have no work to be done there, I believe. So I don't think it even needs to be on the this sheet, does it?
I think Elisa left it on so that we could rescind the borrowing that we
So
had asked for.
it's just, yes, it's a heads up.
That's what will make it
That's-
disappear.
If you look under the project cost, you know, we're looking to, ask to
But I mean,
have
it's
the borrowing rescinded, and then if we do any of those projects at a later date, we just ask for funding again, if we need it.
Right, so we don't need to carry that
No.
forward for any particular reason and.
No, the ones that were on there, we already funded for this year and they're already
Right.
done.
Yeah, and you're all set on my little
We just
comment
need
about the outside corner.
It's another
Something.
case that we need to.
Yeah, you can
rescind
talk about
the
it again if you want, but
It's on the list there. They're gonna do that as part of, we gotta do some pointing on, the Carl Patton Bridge.
Yes,
And then obviously they're working on the ramp at the community building right now.
you're gonna,
And
charge that,
it
I
will
presume,
be, yes. yeah,
and
the
so you'll
guys have-
deal with this back here as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
I
It'll
had
be
made the
similar.
suggestion that you even consider throwing some fiberglass panels on the face of this thing,
Yeah, that might be a good idea.
you know, it'll bounce then.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
You can put them right up on it, under the lower bolt of the siding, slide it underneath, bolt it back, fiberglass panels,
And have it-
FRP,
Nice.
done forever.
Yeah.
Yep.
Done with facilities, thank you.
Anybody else got questions on facilities?
Yeah, I have a question about when the new safety building is in, all right? Is there also in the plan somehow so that when those vehicles come out, that cars are stopped?
yeah,
Yeah.
there's
Like,
lights going.
like a light or something?
Yeah, the flashing fire truck crossing lights
Yeah,
are going in there and
Okay.
the only cars that'll be coming out of that front bay onto Route 4 are fire trucks and ambulance.
and,
The
and where
police
the
cars will come out Granite
police,
Place
Place.
oh,
and they,
And they'll have their lights flashing.
yeah, yeah.
well,
I
they
just-
act like
I-
a normal car.
I'm just curious because when you come up that hill.
Yeah.
You know.
Yes,
You better know before you get up there, because you see it when you get up there, it's too late.
dashboard of the fire trucks are all gonna have a trigger.
Yeah,
Okay.
turn it on.
Yeah,
And those are the big ones. I mean, the
Right.
big trucks coming out are the ones that can't accelerate when they're coming
Right.
out. They're a little
Right.
bit slow.
yeah,
Yeah.
You know, a police car sees you coming over the hill, they can punch it and get out of the way if they need
Right,
it.
yeah. okay,
But yeah, we had the light guy out the other day helping place where the right spot to put those are.
okay, yeah, okay. Because I know that that's that's an uphill thing, then where that truck would be coming out could be a problem, so I was just curious. Okay.
Anybody else got any questions on facility page? Moving on. Public Works.
So 2025, the first item is the Shaker Boulevard Bridge project. That is being funded. The construction is funded 100% through a state and federal grant.
Right.
But the town has to come up with 20% of the engineering and design money.
Yeah.
And I have asked the engineer, and what you see in front of you here is our expected expenditure in the respective years, okay? And I think that the 2027, that's at 1.7 million, but I think that's actually gonna be split between 27 and 28 because they're proposing a September to May construction window for that. So it'll probably be 50-50.
September of 26.
Seven and
27, 28.
Okay.
And then the other thing that I've learned about that is that we don't apply for any reimbursables until the project is well underway. So our hit, if you will, is going to be all of those numbers through, I think, the end of 2026. So I don't know if that one needs to be changed on here or if the fact that it's a reimbursable expense, if that makes a difference.
We can, as of right now, and I don't see any change, we can float that out of cash flow. Just as
So
the general fund, it's,
Enlightenment, which ones are ours? I'm looking at
Well, you're gonna have to pay the whole, the 112.
the 112 plus the 28,
80.
And the 80 plus.
plus the 80 plus the 20, and we have to float that.
see, I don't think we need to, we don't really need to concern this
No,
committee with that.
Right,
Are we gonna have to
That's
pay
the
the
cash flow,
28
sure.
and the 20
Yeah.
out
All
of
right,
CIP?
out of CIP.
The
exactly.
other ones,
Yeah.
we'll float it with
That's
the
a
cash flow in
cash issue.
operation and we'll get our
All right,
reimbursement.
so for our purposes, the 28 in this forward year, 2025,
Right.
and 20,000 in 2026.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
And that
for a
should
total of 48,000 on the, for the project, which is a
Yeah,
1.9
there is some
million and
on
change.
this year that was on the, I think on the 2024. Because we have received a couple of bills already for that.
That was the engineering part.
Yeah, exactly.
Didn't see anything on that. I looked at 2024 again, I didn't see it. Okay.
And then the next one is a non-CDL, town plow truck.
Yeah.
Which is essentially this like F-550 size, if anybody's familiar with
Mhm.
trucks. But they are F-550s or equivalent, but they're outfitted with a plow wing and a municipal, sanding body or spreader body.
Is that the one that's, what is it, number 8? That the one you're talking about?
The one for
Number
8,000
nine.
and 145,000?
So that's the truck,
The 8,000 is trade in.
trade-in value,
Trade-in.
essentially, yeah.
How many
Yeah.
total plow trucks do we have?
So that's-
Total trucks, we have 14.
Right, exactly, number 9.
No, like plow trucks, 14?
Everyone has a plow. Whether it be, there's the great big ones with the huge nose plows, the wings and that. But then we have, small trucks have nose plows for doing parking lots and that sort of thing.
Right, so like, let's focus on the bigger ones, like the ones that are usually on the roads. How many of those do you need?
8.
8. And how long do they roughly last?
The big ones will last 18 to 20 years.
Okay,
The middle-sized ones, 15, and the smaller ones, 8 to 12, depending. I mean,
I think you're gonna see that decrease too. The newer trucks don't last
As
like the
long.
ones from
That's
18
right,
years
yeah.
ago.
so
I
essentially,
think 12 to 13 pushing it on the new ones.
Yeah, the
okay,
big ones,
so like,
Yeah.
on average, every year and a half, we're replacing
one of the big ones.
One of the bigger ones.
Yeah,
and we also will be looking at a program where we could conceivably replace them when they go out of warranty, which is 7 years. There is a school of thought that they should never be out of warranty, so that, you know, anything that happens to them, it gets taken care of.
We'll put some numbers behind that.
Yeah,
I don't know what current numbers are. We were working on this in Weathersfield and we were getting, at that time, we were buying them for 195 with a guaranteed buyback of 95,000, which really reduced the overall cost. Everything stayed in warranty. There was a lot less in-house mechanic work and the numbers worked then. Something we'll look at here. I don't know if that's actually gonna happen or not, but
yeah, I mean, we'll look at it, because I mean, the price of trucks, the one we just ordered was like 262,000, which is what these guys were doing, so it's gone up a lot. And then the second piece of the puzzle is that the order window has gone up. We used to be able to order in March and you have delivery in November. Now you're looking at almost 2 years before you receive that, so.
Yeah.
The one that we ordered March 15th of 2023, it's still on the assembly. It's gotta come here and then, but then we have to mount the plow, so, you know, best case scenario is gonna be delivered in 2025, so. So that's become a, you know, that's the situation normal in the truck.
Right, so we're essentially looking at, on average, you have to replace a vehicle every 2 years, and you have to be 2 years ahead to have a vehicle.
Welcome to America.
So it's a 4-year, it's a 4-year.
yeah, but once we're on the cycle, it's
Right.
still in every other year.
Right, you have to get them on a cycle, because
Right.
if you react, you're
It's too late.
too
Yeah.
late.
The other thing we're working on as you look at this plan is trying to stack things right. So we don't have big spikes in spending.
Like 5 big trucks
So,
go.
I mean, that's really easy to do is, oh, nope, we shouldn't buy the backhoe this year, but if you do that, now you just kicked it into a year that might be bigger than the one. But
Exactly.
even if you could squeeze another year or so out of it, sometimes it doesn't make financial sense to do that.
This seems like a place where we could think about a level of service. If we have 200 flat trucks, presumably some people wait longer for their roads to be plowed. Does it save any money, or do you just spreading the work over your period?
Yeah, it just takes longer to do everything, but then, I mean, there's also the effect on summer operations, because, you know, we have one truck that we put a tank. There's one truck that has the tailgate down, so you can do, one has the shoulder box on it, you know, they all get used, and sometimes it's difficult to set them up, so it's handy to have, you know, an extra truck. And then if one breaks down in the middle of the winter, you like to have one that you can run and continue on, especially if you're gonna be running older machines. And that's what we're doing now, because the ones that we have ordered, on order, we're wishing they were coming this year, you know, immediately, because the 2 trucks that they replace it's gonna be a wonder to get them through the winter time, so.
So you currently have
So we may experience what you're saying, you know, for that reason, not necessarily because we want to, you know, so.
So how many are currently on order? 2?
2, yeah,
Okay.
And those are big ones, or?
those are the big 6-wheelers. We've replaced both of the 10-wheelers. Those are the most expensive ones. And then, you know, we've got 2 of those on, and they're replacing I think it's an 05 and an 06 that we.
Have we got any Sterlings left, or they're gone?
Yeah, that's what these two.
The
the
2
two that-
Sterlings that are left.
Yeah, and once those are gone, the only one that will be a Sterling is the utility
Okay.
truck, but that,
Yep.
no plans to replace that because it's in good shape.
Now, do we have that one you talked about, 262,000 or something? We have that on a finance or what? It's already been ordered, so.
One of them, DPW did a wonderful job and got a grant for it. They got 185,000 and a
Oh,
grant.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's fantastic.
That was the one we ordered this year.
Yeah, we're paying cash for the other portion of it, but
Yeah, right, yeah.
they got 80% of it paid for, so.
Is there any more Volkswagen money out there, or is it gone?
Yeah, it's still available. Yeah, I think we might put one in on the loader,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
we're kind of getting beyond the cutoff. You know, it has to be an older diesel. It has to be, I think.
Well, that's what I mean.
older than '08, I think is what they're looking for.
Those Sterlings,
So our grader and our loader would be the only ones, and of course, the Sterlings are being replaced.
Sterling are being replaced.
Those are out, so the other ones probably not, you know?
Okay,
The grader, is that still up for being replaced?
Yeah, I have that on.
about a few years,
Yeah, that one's in 2029.
right?
2029.
Yeah,
Yeah, because we did some maintenance on that, right?
Yes, yep, we had that one all gone through, I think it was in 2017 or 18.
Right, yeah.
Push that one as long as you can.
Well, that's the big nut.
The
And
new ones aren't any fun.
those the,
when we order that one, we don't plan to do a truck that year, so that, because that's gonna
Right.
be, it's almost 2 trucks worth of
Right.
CIP money.
Did we buy that loader new, do you know?
Yes, yep, in '01, I believe.
And it was the rebuild that we did about 6 years ago.
We totally rebuilt the grader.
Right,
That was about 6 years ago. And then we sent the loader down to Cat in 2020.
yeah.
And it had new hoses and, you know, they rebuilt part of the transmission and some of that kind of work, but yeah, that one's not as easy to rebuild as the other one, because it just, you know,
No.
it's the loading and the, you know, the
Yeah.
metal fatigue and that stuff that starts to eat you up.
Now, and a useless exercise to think about a used piece of equipment? Is that a useless exercise?
I mean, we look at something off lease. I mean, that's what
Yeah.
we did with the mower tractor.
Yeah,
And, you know, I think we
I
got
know you did.
a good machine on that one.
Yeah, yes, you said you did.
It would have to, yeah, I wouldn't want a lot of hours on it.
No, I wouldn't either. Just didn't know, you know, a contractor going out of business might be.
Yeah, well, I mean, in some of these bridge projects, you know, they have to have everything absolutely brand new. And half the equipment sits there like 98% of the time.
I know, yeah,
And, so I mean, that would be something that might be worth considering. And then that gets you around having to.
Yeah.
You know, wait.
I'd be really,
Is there,
well, as long as your eyes are open to it, I guess, is all I'm
Yeah,
asking.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
is there any place where you can go to find that type of stuff?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so you know.
Yeah, yeah, right. Yeah, we have one in town.
Right on Route 4.
yeah. I mean, we really have to balance that with,
Oh, I know.
the worst thing we can do is go buy a used
Buy
one
a
that's a
used
hunk
one
of
that
junk.
dies.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, exactly.
You don't
And
want
then
to
we
do that.
also get government pricing on new ones.
Right.
So we
Yeah,
can
so
get them
you're
cheaper
in
than
pretty
the
good shape there.
contractors can get them.
Right,
So if you go to the trade-in idea, you get higher trade-in versus the.
Yeah, now these trucks, can you go out and sell them? You know, and get something
Yeah,
back
yeah, and you can see,
just for the metal alone?
yeah, on the grants, it's the most of those are trade-ins.
Okay, all right.
That's kind of the guarantee. And then the loaders, you know, kind of unique, especially in the wintertime, in that it is the absolute bottleneck, it's the middle of the hourglass, because all the trucks get loaded by that loader.
Yeah,
And-
right, exactly.
And there's no way to sort of end run that. I mean, that thing has to be ready to go.
Ready to go, right.
And we're
And
gonna
not
get 25 years out of that, 25, you know, seasons, and that's good. And, you know, who bought it? They bought one that's a little bit bigger than most towns buy, but we're now enjoying the sort of the value and the payback by doing that, because it's not dead at 15 years, because it's a good, big, heavy machine, and you know, it's a brand that's excellent. It's a Caterpillar, so.
Yeah.
So just so I have it clear in my head, the loader at, $230,000 financed with a $20,000 trade-in, you're suggesting that, you feel there's a grant application that you could submit for that?
Yeah, that might qualify for the Volkswagen, although I don't know I haven't heard any scuttlebutt on if you got it last year, you don't get it this year, but I mean, I would think that would be the case, but at the same time, you know, don't ask, you don't get it. So-
Right, no, that's right, no, exactly. And the, I'm unclear why the 100,000 for the VW grant is listed at all, since we already bought that in 24. It's not part of that 242,000 that you're requesting for the 6-wheel dump truck.
Where did you see it?
That's another one, isn't
That's a
it?
different vehicle.
One.
Right, it's a different vehicle. So I don't know why the 180,000 VW grant is listed there.
Where do you see that?
There's in line 8. Because it doesn't apply to that truck.
I don't have that on mine.
I don't need anything.
Okay,
Not having on mine either.
oh, good.
Me neither.
Maybe,
Grab an
maybe I'm
old
looking at the last.
You have an old version.
Yeah,
I look at the last week's.
we were looking at that.
You already cleaned it up.
Right, exactly,
Thank you.
yeah.
And then, the last thing on 2025 is the Shaker Bridge Pump Station upgrades. And this is a project that was on our list, and we started a project that was approved at town meeting 3 years ago, I think. And it was to, deal with the I in the system, infiltration and inflows.
Right.
And so we did that. We had the whole thing cambered and scoped. And what we found was there were a couple of bad spots that need to be addressed. And there's some pipe that needs to be lined, but it did not cut into the approved amount very deeply. So with that, we've sort of gone to the next phase, which was to do some upgrades, especially in Shaker Bridge. Shaker Bridge Pump Station, you know, we have about 5 hours of storage and then it has to be pumped. The one at Shaker Village, that one can go 3 days without being pumped. So we started looking at some of the issues that we've had with it, some upgrades. We're doing a lot of odor control with the city of Lebanon now. We don't have a great place to introduce that. So we're trying to pull together all these little things at Shaker Bridge, these issues, loading dock for the drums of caustic soda. And so we're pulling those together into one, and the money that was approved previously, it should fit within that. And so that hopefully will happen this winter and maybe early spring to do that project. They're working on the design work for that now.
So I have
Is
a
that,
question.
is that the pump station that's right on
At the lake.
At the lake,
By
at
the
the-
bridge, yeah.
by the main bridge?
Yep, on Pine Drive.
Well, you thought it was a porta potty.
Yeah, no,
It's a big.
I didn't think that. That might have been over by the swimming place.
Yeah, that's a part of the 1.9 million that was
Yeah.
approved. for-
Exactly, yep,
Okay.
yep.
This is a good place to remind
Right.
the
it
new
was
people on
approved.
here that we're looking at the CIP plan,
Right,
not necessarily what's gonna be funded out of the CIP.
Right,
right.
So as we talked earlier, some of
Right.
this will be funded
Because
from
that's-
TIF.
water and sewer.
This is actually funded from a grant and an SRF loan that's already been approved and already in the
Yeah.
works. So it's not extra money being spent, it's just a new project being added to that.
Right, so we're not planning to go to town meeting and asking the sewer people to come up with 750,000.
No,
This is really just the funding that we got to make upgrades. We didn't use as much as we expected, therefore it gives us an opportunity to make additional upgrades that will improve the system for the.
Yeah, I
long
think it,
Yeah, and it was in the language article,
Right,
the
right.
article.
Right.
To do this pump station piece
Yes,
too,
right.
so.
Right.
We had expected to do that. And then the good news was that, we did get ARPA money for, against the 1.9 that the town approved.
Yeah.
To the tune, I think it was like 822,000. So the actual ratepayers are responsible for a lot less than what was asked for upfront, so.
So,
And they're gonna get more work done than they expected, which is great.
so the new.
This is also goes back to the people, the water system, doesn't it? Or the sewage system?
Yep, yep.
Okay, and it doesn't get back to the tax rate or anything like that.
That's correct.
yeah, the SRF loan will have to be paid back with fees from the water sewer.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I think that's a good point to make sure that the people know that that's what's happening.
Mhm.
Okay,
And then again,
because I think a lot of people are afraid right now anyways.
Right,
Okay.
so it's essentially comes down to 2 DPW vehicles and then the small match on the bridge project.
Yep. Yeah. Right.
Which is manageable and kind of expected for what the purpose of CIP is, right?
Mhm.
How many, like, so you say, when I asked you about the plow trucks.
Mhm.
Just to have just to put the size of DPW in my mind, how many total vehicles do we have?
14,
Right, but like, not, so yeah, including.
50, because, yeah.
Yeah, there's the grader and the backhoe and
Oh, pieces of equipment then?
how many pieces of equipment do you?
Gosh. I don't know, probably 25.
That's a hard
he's
one,
got-
because it depends how small you go.
Yeah, he's got
Yeah, yeah.
trailers and.
I know, but like, so 25.
There's trailers, yeah, air compressors.
I know, but like, tractor, mower.
Things with engines.
Things with engines.
Oh,
Yes.
that's a good way to.
Yeah, yeah, I
Big
mean,
engines.
probably gonna get to, I bet it's under 25, but it's gonna be awfully close to
Okay.
25.
Alright.
But I can get that for you.
Nope.
Yeah.
Well, it just gives us an idea of how many pieces of equipment should we expect to replace on an annual basis.
Mhm.
Yeah.
If we look at the average number of expensive things with engines
Right.
and the average amount of life that those expensive things with engines have.
Yeah.
Very simple
And they're
math,
all variable, yeah,
how it varies, but on average, we should be looking at
exactly.
replacing X amount of equipment here.
Do you,
A big and a small,
Right.
2 a year.
do you also look at what the, people have rated some of this equipment at? In other words, or do they even give ratings on the equipment? Like,
Oh, for,
for pickup trucks or dump trucks and front loaders and graders
for
and stuff like
reviews
that.
and so forth. We look at that a little bit, but we're more interested in who can help us if the thing breaks down. I mean, if there's a really great thing and the nearest parts are in Connecticut, no, thank you, not interested, because everything breaks down and it's, again, Milton Cat has been good. I've heard good things about Case. I've heard good things about John Deere, and all those people have a presence nearby. And Milton just opened a place at the Lebanon airport. So we used to have to go to Hopkinton, then into us to Londonderry, but now they're in Lebanon. So
Wow.
if we call up and order a part, they have trucks going up and down the interstate all the time, and they just drop the part, you go pick it up, you got it.
That's the case?
That's the Caterpillar.
Caterpillar.
Yeah. And Townland Equipment has Case, and then the John Deere, there's one in Springfield, Vermont, which isn't too bad.
Plus, what's the state contract price?
Yes, right. Yeah.
So we do that. A lot of times you can RFP out and get it just below the state price, because everybody knows what the state price is.
Yeah.
Right,
We
that's right.
we play all those games trying to
Yeah.
get the best price.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna jump ahead a year on a question to you.
Sure.
The Spectacle Pond Bridge.
Yep.
You've got 50,000 in 2026.
Uh-huh.
Is that construction or planning?
That would be planning and car permitting primarily.
Okay.
I have a question.
You don't have to raise your hand here.
No, but I was gonna bring that forward. I've been talking to Jim. I talked to you guys. What we'd like to do is put probably somewhere in that $50,000 range in for looking at all of our bridges
Yeah.
and remove the big funding pieces out of every year moving forward.
Yeah.
I do believe a majority, if not all of these, do not need to be replaced right
Right.
now.
Mhm.
And, getting those off the CIP, if there's one that pops up that maybe, and, the Spectacle Pond Bridge may be one that doesn't necessarily need to be, but last time we had heavy rains, it almost washed out the road, so we might be looking at a box culvert there just because it's the right thing to do. Maybe we put that, if you look at this last column, there's no dates in there. I had Elisa put that on, and that's just for projects that you guys should know are out there somewhere, but they
Right.
don't fit on
Potato
the
Road, yeah.
plan. And they could pop up, but for the most part, we think they're farther out than what this plan covers, but something that we should be aware of and thinking.
So would you put that engineering expense in 2026 or 5?
I think we can do it in 2026. I don't think it's anything we need to.
So I'll go
hurry on.
one step further, if I may. Any thoughts for the Shaker Boulevard Bailey Bridge?
Thoughts? What do you mean?
Where do you want to
Where
put
do
it?
you want to put it?
As
Or do you want to hold on?
I'd love to have it come out of there and at the same time go somewhere other than back here.
I think it should be marketed or traded in or sold to another community or something along those lines. 'Cause we
We
have,
already got one.
We have one.
we have one. And then that one's a lot easier to deploy than a Bailey Bridge is.
Yeah, this one's in pieces.
The Bailey Bridge comes in a million pieces, yes.
Yeah,
This one here is.
3 pieces.
It's, yeah, and you just open it up, boom, it's done.
Yeah.
2 hours.
So your thinking is, when the time comes for the Shaker Boulevard Bridge to be replaced.
Yep.
The contractor's gonna pull it out of the ground, but months and months before that, we'll have sold it to somebody.
Somebody might be interested in it, I hope. Yeah,
As soon as we know their schedule.
yes, right, yep.
Start marketing Vermont. They've flooded a few times.
Yeah, right.
How much do you think we would get for it?
I have no idea what those go
What did
for.
we pay for it? 75?
150 grand.
Yeah, I think, yeah. I mean, this one needs a new deck. I mean,
Right.
But only a new deck.
yeah,
That's nothing.
but
Yeah.
exactly, yeah, that's a consumable
I
really,
mean,
so.
these things will last for 50 to 75 years, and they have huge rating
Spray it
capacity.
or something, right? They don't have to.
Yeah, right, oh yeah, they probably recondition this and
Right.
to be
They
deployed
don't,
someplace.
they don't
Yeah,
have
and
to put
the other,
new metal.
the other thing we may get into is what the state has for funding, get back to, we don't replace a bridge until,
Right, so.
Well, that's,
That's what I was trying to get to.
you know,
yeah, you
yeah,
don't replace a bridge
until.
until the state red lists the sucker.
Well, not, or until funding becomes
Well, that's what I mean.
But
That's
then you have to be ready for it,
right.
which
That's
I
right.
think.
Well, that's why I'm saying we
which I think
did the design. work.
engineering, like having our bridges looked at, so we know
Right.
Yeah.
which ones are on the list, so
Yeah,
that.
they look
Yeah.
at them now, but I think having some engineering firm come in,
Yeah,
use the stuff that the state looks at, goes out, puts their eyes on them themselves and says, you can
Because the
expect
state
10 to
says-
15
The
years.
state says we got X number of dollars available.
Yeah.
They
the,
have,
the other thing about the state system is they don't look at all of our bridges, and they're not looking at Spectacle
No.
Pond, and they're not looking at, Grafton Pond Road, they're not looking, there's a bunch of our bridges that don't meet the state, inspection
What-
standards. So-
Right,
So we're kind of on the hook for
that
those
they don't consider
ourselves.
a bridge.
Right, yeah, it would be, a culvert or the Spanish
culvert
short, or,
or
there's a
yeah.
lot of things like that, and,
Yeah.
Because it'd be nice to avoid replacing something that we didn't have to replace, replacing it too early and not having grant money for it.
Mhm.
At the same time, we don't want to wait for it to fall apart.
No, but you've got that bridge out back. There.
Yeah.
Worst case
That's why we
scenario,
there's a Bailey Bridge out back of the DPW.
right,
Yeah.
that worst case
Yeah.
scenario you would use.
No, I think it's
Yeah.
worth having them looked at every once in a
Right,
while
yeah.
with someone outside.
But I do like the idea that, the Shaker Bridge, we'd look at it months ahead of the contractor removing it and hopefully have a source to
Mm.
dispose of it and,
Yeah.
get rid of it.
Yeah, and quite often, the bridge contractors, they know somebody that needs that bridge, and
Right.
they're.
I'm sure there's a lot of towns that would look at that and say that, there are certainly a lot of towns that would look at that as a permanent replacement, which
Yeah.
is
Oh, yeah.
perfectly
Oh,
capable
yeah.
of being.
Every bridge in Hawaii practically, I think is.
Is one lane.
One of those, yeah,
Right.
that's right.
So, and for my education, why are we replacing the bridge?
Because the state said they
Because the
paid for
state
it.
offered us money.
They it's 1.7 million.
They offered us, well, it's up to 1.9 now.
Right, yeah, the state said here's
Yeah.
$1.9 million.
Well, and it was
Because
it was a
originally,
Hurricane Irene.
Right.
Replacement, and it was not overly engineered, and
Right.
the environmental stuff was not, it was like, we gotta get this put back, so.
right,
It was, expected to be a temporary, and it's been, long enough, really, so.
But it's been
because
replaced
it was
with a
gonna be,
bridge.
it was gonna be $1 million.
That is
to
not
replace it as a
necessarily a
bridge.
temporary
Yes.
piece of equipment.
Right,
It is
Right.
capable of being a permanent piece of equipment for someone else.
right.
Right. So it's not like it is not like it causes problems for us.
Oh,
No,
Right.
If,
none of
if the state was not paying for it, it would stay there.
originally that was
Right.
put in because either we were gonna put that Bailey Bridge in or it was gonna be $1 million
yeah.
for us to put in a bridge down.
What ended up
10 years
happening,
ago.
this wasn't even on our list of
No.
things to work on.
Yeah.
And the state got bridge money and they came to us and said, we will replace this
That's
bridge if
Yeah.
you want it.
Hmm.
Okay,
Yeah, no
At-
flexibility on our part.
At this
No,
no,
80/20 of the engineering, and they'll
Got
pay
it.
for the construction, so we
Yeah,
said, yeah, sure.
okay. And
I have a couple of questions about two different things, and I don't know whether they got done or not. One was George's Mill.
George,
There was culvert or
Yeah.
something to be put in there. Did that ever happen?
George Pond Bridge, no.
Huh?
No,
no,
And it
No.
doesn't really need to. That's what we're talking about, having an engineer look at it, just to make sure.
Yeah.
It's a high hazard bridge, which means we pay a little bit more on our bridge fee every year, but nowhere near what it's gonna cost us to replace that
Yeah,
bridge, and the
because that
bridge
was-
is not
that
red
was-
listed.
And then the other one is the one where, all the dump trucks come through, and go down that road when you go down 4A and you go
Yeah,
around the
that's what he-
corner.
so
And
that's the one he was talking.
that's the same one, Bog Road.
Ball Road?
That's Bog
Yeah.
Road.
It's the George, it's the
George
George
Pond
Pond
that's
Bridge.
the George
Oh,
Pond
that's
Bridge,
George.
It's a bridge dam.
Oh.
yeah,
Yeah, and the dam is incorporated
The dam is
into the
into-
bridge.
Oh,
right at the end of town property.
Okay.
Right,
Yeah.
And that's why it's a high hazard bridge, because that has a
Right.
dam attached to it,
right.
not because the bridge is bad.
And they won't let us breach it.
We would like an engineer to actually say that.
Well, they would,
He was.
It's a goal. one
that
big
firm
over.
probably would love a new bridge, right?
That's
They do all the,
No, no.
they have all their trucks coming across there, right?
Oh.
Monkey does, yeah.
Donkey now does.
No, no.
It's open back up again.
I used to-
Yeah,
No,
Oh,
No.
I didn't know that.
no.
Okay,
yeah, I'd say he's running about 20% of what he was,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
wow.
part of the reason we're doing that study, I'm convinced myself that doesn't need to be replaced,
Right.
so we shouldn't
Yeah.
be replacing it or having it on the plan to be replaced.
And just for workflow, I don't really want 3 bridges going at the same
Yeah,
time.
No,
exactly.
no, no.
Yeah,
Right, there's enough logistics and so forth to go
Right.
on.
Come on, multiple projects.
And no more
You bet.
projects.
Okay,
Looking at, so there's essentially one or two big DPW
Every year.
pieces of equipment every year.
right.
Yeah.
It stops at, 2030 because the plan ends. But once we get past the grader,
What's the next big piece of
what's the
equipment?
what's the next piece of equipment that you're gonna go by 2030? Oof. That's another big one that's gonna cause us a big headache. Or are we then just into the?
I mean, if
routine?
we keep up with trucks, I mean, and if we do the loader this year, the backhoe in 27 and the grader in 29, that's
Those
really,
are the three big pieces.
that's the
Yeah.
most of it. I mean,
I think it's keeping an eye on the roadside mowing tractor at that point.
Right.
and-
yeah,
And maybe looking at a longer term plan on these three, so we're not replacing all of them in a 6-year span.
Oh, yeah.
Future.
Yeah.
I mean, really looking down the future, if it's a 20-year plan, maybe every 5 to 6 years, we're buying one.
You're
of
gonna
those.
buy it.
yeah, but I mean, unfortunately, the useful life is very different for those 3 P. I mean, the backhoe, the excavator, the loader and the grader. The grader lasts longer than the loader lasts longer than the backhoe and so forth. So, sometimes they do but there may be a way to,
We can look at a
Stagger
long-term
those
plan,
such.
and that's exactly what I was talking about, that.
Yeah.
If the useful life is 18 years, maybe we trade it in at 15 and
Yeah.
do one, just
Yeah.
because it fits the financial plan
Yeah,
better.
the
You're gonna get
backhoes.
better trade-in, there's a lot of things that go along.
The backhoe though basically is about the same price as a truck.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So,
in
I
between
mean,
the.
so it's not
As a 10-wheeler, as a wheeler.
as a
Yeah.
10-wheeler,
Right.
yeah.
So
So
we
you
can
just
fold
put-
that in the plan like
You'd hold
that.
it in a year where you're not gonna
Yes,
have another big truck.
Yep, yep.
That would be your big piece that year.
Well, and that's one that wears out faster, so it may be
Right.
one that you put in 2 times
Yeah.
before you get
Oh,
to the
yeah,
grader.
exactly.
Oh, yeah.
But we can work on that. One of the things that I have planned for next year is to work on a little bit more of a narrative type plan of how often we are gonna switch out each of these vehicles and what our plan is. They'll all still be shown on here, but you'll have a little bit more of a narrative in your head of how long vehicles are lasting, what we're doing, why.
Well,
we're
then how does what we're doing line up with the fire department say? I
Yeah.
mean, that's
Right.
another. They have some big ticket.
They got like 20 years. We're
Yeah.
good.
Right.
They're
they got
good for
20
a
years.
generation.
They're full.
They
they're
really
full
are.
for 20 years.
And the ambulance is good for a generation.
Yeah.
Now, I would say for the annual report, though, that we don't go out 5 years on this. Because the out years are
Yeah,
whatever,
we're gonna change.
and you're gonna get questions on, well, why are you getting a new grader in
Yeah.
4.5 years, you know? So do you do two or three and then have one number for out years?
Well, or if you show your 3-year plan
Right, yeah,
and you state what your long-term philosophy is.
right,
Right, because
Yeah.
I agree, the 5-year plan,
It's too speculative.
it's too speculative
it's guesswork.
right now,
I agree. A 3-year plan is adequate to the task with a proper narrative.
right,
uh,
Yeah.
Outlining the philosophy of replacement and.
right,
Um,
Right, because
that is all that you really need.
Yeah.
if you look what's
Because
in
that's
the
the only part that's real.
exactly. That and what's your outstanding financing?
Oh, no, I'm not
Yeah,
questioning the
That's
numbers.
the other
No,
piece.
no, you gotta do
That's the
that.
other piece that you
That
gotta show
That
is,
has to be there.
that's what's, yeah, you're putting in 600,000 this year, but 275,000 is going to finance stuff you've already bought.
So are we saying for the 3-year plan? So are we essentially gonna say for now, we're gonna remove the Spectacle Pond Bridge until we actually know what the plan is?
Yeah, I want
Yeah.
to pull that off the,
And then,
is it Bog Road or George Pond? I
Is
don't know
the-
how it's listed.
So there's 50,000 cash listed in 26, but that'll actually start to read engineering study.
Right,
right.
And
And then,
we'll get,
Well, words to
we'll
that
get a
effect.
number on
Right.
that, but
Yeah,
we'll
of
leave
course
it
you will.
50 for
Of
now.
course you will, but it's a
Okay.
good placeholder.
and then the phase 3 water main, that would be a new article, right? That
Yeah.
is not an existing thing, that is.
That's
new.
right.
right.
The one in 4 years out in 28.
No, 26.
No, 26, which is water and sewers.
Oh, water and sewer, yeah.
Right.
So. do we
But
think
that's
that-
not,
do we
that's
think
not a
that-
part of the
Well, we-
1.9.
No, this,
Right.
that would be
This
phase
completely-
2.
This would be the next.
This is the next
That's another grant, hopefully, right?
Loan and grant.
loan and
And
grant.
so are we?
Is prospects for grant money coming out is,
Not full grant money, but
But-
I don't even know if we'll get half again, but
The
we'll be
40 or
working for
40.
forgiveness and some federal
but
grant,
seven figures or something to that effect.
I hope.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes,
if
so-
you play with SRF loans, you put in, you accept the loan, and then they come back and tell you
How much you're gonna.
how much you're gonna get.
you're gonna
to pay
get.
back.
Right,
And then even more fun than that, you guys will love this. You don't get your, how much your financing gonna be, what your interest rate or anything till you complete the project, you're done
Right.
and you close out the grant.
right,
So it's
Yeah.
way backwards from anything you do in the regular world.
right,
The 1.9 million that we got forgiveness, we don't know what the interest rate's gonna be or the payment or anything at
right.
this point.
You gotta be kidding.
No,
Welcome to the federal government.
yeah, yeah.
So is the timing of that, like, the intent is to put it on the ballot in 25?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You put the projects forward to the state and they look at them, and then when you hit ranked in the top as priority, then you gotta start looking at getting permission from your town to do it.
So, okay,
And we've been ranked high for 2026, right?
Right.
Yeah. But the actual application deadline, I think, is like May of next year for that.
The other thing is, I'm gonna say it this way. Who knows when we would start paying on it? Cause the last one, we've been approved for the loan, we're doing the projects. But we don't even know when we're gonna have our first payment due, probably 2025, but it might be 2026 at this
Yeah.
point. And
So-
so projects are done. We've spent millions of dollars.
right.
So is that told to the public?
Right.
I mean, because, I mean, I would have seen that and I would have said, holy cow, we're doing this again? Because all the other
Yeah, well-
financing and stuff we're doing.
Yeah, we'll
Okay,
have to talk about it and we're gonna have to try to get some idea of what this loan's gonna look like. What we can say is we've
Right.
been forgiven to the point of now we owe like 62%, not the whole thing that we approved last time.
and are you looking for the people to approve it at that point in time? Or are you looking for them to say, okay, you're gonna get more information or something like this?
It's gotta be
Yeah.
approved in
It
twenty
gotta be
twenty-five or we
yeah.
can't get the
However,
loan.
Can we,
Six.
if we approve it, see it would go like this, right, from my understanding. It would be approved. You would apply, right? You would get it, let's assume for now you get it. You go do the project, you finish the project, then you know what the loan is and how much you're gonna pay on it. Right?
Right.
That's one scenario.
When did we approve this? 2021, the 19, or was
I
it
think it was.
2020?
One.
It was 21.
Yeah, cause it was a,
Yeah,
it
So
was a
just put
COVID
that,
town meeting.
put
5
that
years,
timeline in your
exactly.
way. We're 5 years or 4 years later now.
Right.
And I'm thinking in 2025, we'll close out the loan, which means our first payment will probably be 2026.
Right, so,
But we'll
however,
know in 25 what it is.
right,
Hope
for the
yeah.
2021. However,
Right.
back to this one.
Yeah.
If we, so say we approve at a time meeting, you apply for the loan, right? And say you get nada. You essentially wait and you apply again the year after?
You can, but they have a pre-approval process. And that's what ranks you in the state projects, and we're ranked in the top 10, which pretty much means we will get funding.
Okay. And I think, so here, I think if we explain all that,
Right.
Yes.
people
Right.
will,
Yeah.
people will approve it. If
Right.
we're just gonna go in, hey, we want to
Yeah,
do this $2.5
exactly.
million
Well, and
They're
project,
gonna say, whoa, wait a minute.
it's gonna be.
And hopefully, when you go to put this one in, you know what the prior one was. So you could use that to say,
Yeah,
okay,
Well, maybe
we got-
because-
Yeah, we may or may not
This
know,
is
but
going
what
on
we
the
do
ballot in
know,
4 months.
what we do know is we approved 2.8 million. And we're not paying that
Right.
back. We're paying back about 2 million of the 2.8.
Oh,
They're
you-
Little,
No, the.
little less than
application
that.
deadline is
The
next
previous
week.
one,
And
no,
it
we
has
put
to
in
be-
for
yeah,
almost
but
4
I
million.
can put
it
an
was 1.9
application.
for each
If they,
water, well, one, yeah.
No, they
Yeah.
don't have to
1.9 for
be.
each side.
So
approved by
3.8, and
voters.
we're paying a little bit
Then-
more
Right.
than 2 back.
We're
And
ranked
we're
high
paying
for
two.
26 and the application is May
But-
2025, right?
right,
Is that coming out of the
Means-
taxes or is that coming out of?
It goes on the
sewer
ballot.
or water?
It's coming out of water sewer,
Okay,
but
but those people were,
that means you divide it over less people.
yeah, they're gonna say, okay, how high is my water and sewer bill going to increase by?
Right.
yeah, this
Okay.
one's,
That's what they're gonna,
this one's tougher because there's more people on water than there are just on sewer.
So,
But you've got it, but it's the entire town that votes on it.
right. So to confirm something. We would, for this to happen in 2026, it has to go on the ballot
This coming
this
March.
coming March.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so you're
When
not
are
gonna
the-
know.
When are the loan applications due for
I think
20?
it's like May 15th.
They have 25.
25 for
Yeah, yeah, cause
2026.
they will let you have town meeting before they have
Right,
the final one due.
So,
And if you don't get approved, then I think you get taken off the list completely, because they
Right.
don't wanna, they
right,
don't wanna give, have money sitting there for towns that won't pay their piece.
right.
Yeah.
Are we allowed to use either one of the water or sewer reserve funds? To pay any of that?
We can look at that. I mean, it's for capital expenses.
That's capital.
It is capital,
Yeah,
and although we're paying a loan, the loan was for the capital investment.
right.
That's a little gray, I know, but
So when we worded the article in 2021 for the water piece, we did include $100,000 from reserves
Right,
in 2021.
in 2021. So
Yeah,
we
this,
do that.
according to the latest audit, there's around 217,000 in water and 160,000 in sewer.
That's the capital reserve.
right.
But we haven't,
yes.
we haven't pulled the 100,000 from the water yet.
But we haven't pulled the, we're still, because, okay.
And I.
So
think
in theory, the
100,000
217 may only be 117.
I think the 100,000 was to come from fund balance.
The water fund balance?
I
Oh,
think
it
so.
could be.
Fund
Yeah.
balance.
Okay, well, we'll let you look at that, but,
Yes,
but your thoughts is,
We can
it is
look at
possible that those reserves could be,
it is. Yeah,
Available.
we're gonna have to be a little strategic on it, but yeah, if those are
Agreed.
available, we can pull a little bit to help.
right,
I
Yeah.
mean,
that's what I was,
because it's our emergency fund in case a pump goes out.
Right,
it is that,
Yeah.
but it's not the only one.
Well, it is in the water and sewer.
It is for water and sewer,
Yeah.
Only,
I still think when you
Yeah, we
bring
are
this
not
up,
supposed to
not
use
from
general
Yeah, you
fund
take it
or
out of general,
you can't see it on the
CIP
general.
or,
cause we've,
you've got to
We've
have.
run-
that was my question, since it is listed for capital improvements. The loan was for capital improvements,
right, but
and whether it could be used as our share, I don't know.
that's because the capital improvement fund is underfunded.
Yeah.
At this point, it should probably be closer to $1 million rather than $100,000.
yeah, we're trying to build those, so it's something we're gonna have to talk
Right.
about, but. And then what is 100,000
Well,
I mean, that's the other
2.5
thing.
million.
on a 2.5 million?
No.
What's 100,000 gonna do? It's probably not gonna lower your payment very
No,
much.
no,
So it
No,
might not be
all it's
worth,
gonna do is cover a payment or two.
might not be worth the risk.
I don't know. It's, I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
How much is a pump?
50,000.
Our big ones, the last time we had one redone, I think it was 12,000.
Oh.
But again, they rebuilt what we had. It wasn't.
Right, it wasn't a new pump.
Correct.
Yeah,
I still think that when you bring these things up, you have to have an idea of what the percent is gonna increase the bill, the sewage or the water bill by, at least, and even if you have
Yeah, we'll have to talk about,
You
some
do,
kind of a magnitude
yeah, you do,
between this percent and that percent, you
but
know?
these pass. And they
Yeah.
pass because 90% of the people there it doesn't affect.
no, but we need to
No.
do the,
But
we need to do the right thing to
Oh, I agree.
sell it.
I agree, but that's, you gotta sell it. I
We need to
agree.
talk about the past.
you
The
got-
hard part is,
But when
I mean,
you
you
say
gotta-
we've got 1903 pipes in the ground that we've gotta replace, people are going, yeah, you really do have to replace them.
Yeah.
They're 120 years old.
an approval for an SRF loan is the way to do it. It's the
Right,
lowest cost
exactly.
loan you're gonna get, and you're going to get some sort of
Right.
forgiveness.
Because if it blows up, you're gonna have to replace it anyways. And you
Yeah,
might
but
as well have it
I think what you
low.
have to do, you have to be in the mentality of the people with, in the
Mhm.
towns. Is you've got the new facilities that you've
I
already done.
know,
And those are millions of dollars.
I know.
Now you're gonna add to them a certain percent, millions of dollars in addition, okay? You gotta be sensitive to that,
Yep.
okay?
Yeah, I agree.
So all I'm saying is you gotta get
gotta
some
tell them.
kind of a percentage or something to them so that they know, although you're saying
But you
that,
can't. You
Well-
can't do that. The
Well-
reason is you don't know what the
What those payments-
SRF loan is gonna
Yes,
be,
yeah.
and you don't know what the forgiveness is gonna
well,
be.
you do
we can
know,
get an
you do
idea.
know what the
You know what
last
the
one
total
was.
one is. You can say, okay, if we get $0, then it's gonna be X number, but the chances of that happening
Zero.
are 0.
Yeah, but you probably know approximately between this number and this number, you'll probably get something in between there.
So
Okay.
if you come in and you say it's someplace between 30 and 60,
Take the low
We
number.
can estimate our loan forgiveness from the last one minus the grants. If the
Right.
grants are probably a little harder to get.
yeah,
And say, you know, it's fairly possible we'll be in this ballpark and we
Right.
can give a
Yeah,
number.
just,
yeah.
and take
Maybe
the
up or
lower
down
in the
from there.
ballpark number, okay? That's all.
Take the higher. I'd much rather be wrong on that side.
Right.
Or the lower number, so the
I think you
payments.
guys are talking about the same number, just.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
End of it.
Any other questions on this piece?
Who's presenting it?
Who's presenting what?
what?
The $2.5 million loan?
Yeah, Dan is. He's leaving, so.
Me and Jim,
Yeah, on the low.
that'll be a separate warrant article
Yeah, yeah,
about
yeah.
water.
It's gotta be separate.
I did that last, I
It's
did
not-
that last time.
It's not a CIP issue.
Yeah.
No, that's why I'm
At all.
asking who's.
That's
presenting
why,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
We'll work together.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the problem, is there's no CIP money
Because the-
involved in this,
So what I'm hearing is,
This point.
at this point.
so correct me if my memory's wrong.
Yep.
The first time we put up the water and sewer fixes, they got rejected. They were put
No.
up the year after and then they got
Yeah,
approved.
They did.
Did we
Okay.
reject it in 20?
They rejected them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first one they did reject.
They rejected both of them.
Yeah, when I
Yeah.
had the engineer He did.
I mean, the second
presentation,
presentation.
Yes,
No, yeah,
And then I did the second one.
you did the
yes,
second.
and you did the second one in
The first
half.
guy came in and he just blew people away because he
Yeah.
didn't understand the word he said.
No,
So
And
anyway,
that was basically
I
it.
do remember that. It was
Yeah.
a-
Is this,
I'm good at dumbing things
It
down.
was, well, it
Well,
wasn't
it's
so
not
much
dumbing
that.
things up, it's
It was
putting
a
things in.
but I'm trying to point out
Bad
how this went,
presentation.
how this went last time, right?
I
Last
agree.
time, the first year, they
Yes.
both got rejected,
Right,
then they got accepted. What I'm
Right.
hearing
Yes.
is, we're on the list essentially for 26.
right.
It has to pass in March or we're being removed. We have the risk of being removed
Moved
from the list.
yeah,
Right.
there's a
Yes.
possibility that we'd be put back on the 27th list. So it's
Right.
not like, oh, you're blackballed forever.
Right.
Yes, yes, but, so we
Right.
need to take that into account. Everybody in town will still remember what happened to the high school, right? That is still fresh in people's minds, how we voted no, and we could have had half the money funded by the state, and then we eventually voted it for
Right.
voted for it, and then we had to pay it all ourselves.
Yeah.
Right? So
That's right.
that's a good example to give. It's like, hey, let's not do that.
Right. Right, yeah, I mean, and another piece of this project is lead remediation. Our biggest exposure is on those ancient mines.
Right.
And if this got defeated, no, it's gonna be 20 years before we pass this thing again. The EPA could very well show up on our doorstep and go, yeah, but you gotta do the lead.
You
And
gotta
so
do
you're gonna
the
be
lead.
digging this up anyway.
Wait.
They're,
So
Right.
they're
So-
starting to do
they're
that.
starting to do
Well,
that.
you have a lead remediation project anyway, don't you?
We're doing a survey right now. but the
Yes, you have
survey
to
is
do the
gonna-
survey.
Yeah, it's gonna
Survey
lead
sometime.
to thou shalt is what's gonna
Right,
happen.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
my point is, let's make sure we properly communicate to avoid the scenario where this gets defeated
Right.
and something else happens.
And we
then
end
have
up
to
paying the
foot
whole boat.
Whole bill,
Right.
Right.
because we don't have time to wait.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the line is 125 years old. It needs to be.
How much,
Well,
of-
we can have
there's
another
lead
CIP
survey.
meeting
How
when
big
we're
is
getting
it?
close and Jim can.
This is
present to you.
4th Street.
Yeah.
It's May, Shed, Stevens and Wells, which
okay,
is where we're having most of our
which,
our leak
where your
issues
mains are
and
breaking.
break, yeah, exactly.
Separating.
They're not very deep.
Yeah.
If you get a lot of
They're
freezing
not,
temperatures, we
exactly.
have breaks.
Stevens is not keeping on.
town water.
No, no,
No, no,
No.
no, geez, no.
no.
So because I think if
Is
people
any
look
of
at
it
the
in the
next,
TIF district?
Yeah.
if people look at.
Well,
the next-
yes, this is
Should be.
all on our one, so it's not TIF, unfortunately.
Um,
It's outside.
If people look at the next 3 years, they're naturally gonna go to the biggest number, right? And the biggest number is that 2.5 million.
Yeah.
Where the story is least clear. The next biggest number is 1.7, which has a very clear story, right?
Right.
And then the numbers after that are all in the, yes, we gotta replace our equipment.
Right.
Well, and we'll also show, and we'll keep revising the summary.
Right.
But if you look at that over the 3-year plan, even with the debt we're proposing at this point, this year with the fire truck, we're spending 150-ish thousand more than what we're bringing in. But the next few years, we're proposing spending less than what we're bringing in
Right.
on our CIP fund. So it's definitely something we can talk about. I know last year it looked astronomical going out. But looking at cash out of CIP now with some changes that we've made over the last year. We're back into I call it the ebb and flow scenario, right around what we're bringing in, which is where we want to be. Keeping a decent fund or balance in the CIP fund.
The CIP balance I'm looking at on the sheet you just handed out tonight says $1,050,767.
The end of this year project.
And my question is, does that include the 186,291 that was in the warrant article?
Which actually was reduced to something in the area of 114,000.
Yeah.
Because of the available reserve funds.
Right.
That's going to, that, when those close out. That number is gonna be a little different. Because they have the final GL fund
Right.
money recovery. So that's kind of up in the
So
air, but
the-
this is based on the articles that we had at town meeting as amended.
Okay, so the article said 186,000. But you're saying that was not what was available.
Right, so it was amended to somewhere in the 114 range, if my memory serves. At town meeting, and the next one was adjusted by that amount. So we raised the 600,068 in total between the
Right.
two articles.
That's why,
So the 600,068 included
yes,
the 114,000?
right, because look at it, it went from, the deposit is going 500, 526, 600, 579.
Right,
So that 600 has extra money.
right. Just not as much as.
So then my other
Article at.
little question is that we've been depositing, what's called the nickel. The
Yeah.
26,200,
Yep.
which is supposed to be a nickel on the tax rate. But even as the tax rate has changed, why has that not changed?
$26,200 is roughly a nickel.
Right,
But even as the tax rate has changed, that
It'll
nickel
possibly,
doesn't change.
it'll possibly change this. next
Right.
year.
But in the past 3 years where the tax rate has changed, it has not changed. And I'm just curious, why is that?
We've been using the 26.2 for
Right.
years.
Yeah, I know, yeah. And I was wondering why. I'm just curious.
It's a nice, simple number that doesn't change, and so people know what to expect.
So rather than calculate out the nickel on the current tax rate of March, we use 26.2.
We would have to work based on the prior year's tax rate. We could
Okay.
figure that out.
Yeah.
If you wanted to.
Oh,
I'm just
We can't-
asking the
we can't tell The
question.
current year, obviously, because that's just a guess. We
Right.
don't know.
Yeah.
But we know what last year's tax rate was. If you want to
Right.
figure out what a nickel on how much we're raising.
Yeah.
With a nickel on last year.
so your point is it's not, that's not a nickel.
Nickel,
Yeah,
I see what you're saying.
right,
It's probably 4.1
I don't know.
now.
right.
I don't
The
know.
nickel's-
But it's not a nickel.
Right.
Right, yes.
You got anything, Brad?
Yeah, no.
So essentially, looking at the cash balance, the end of 25 will be a little rougher, but then it starts recovering.
Right,
So another question is there a recommended balance?
12%.
No.
no.
That.
Oh,
that's what
unfunded
you're-
balance, okay.
Right.
Balance.
Is
We
there,
we worked on that a
No.
little bit last year.
Yeah,
And decided to table that. I think what we were looking at, or what I was proposing, was about 50% of the 6-year plan.
because I know the whole balance question only matters whether you're gonna go use cash or
Finance.
finance. But I think it'd be good for the committee, especially as certain people will, some people come off, new people come on.
Yeah.
If there were a recommendation like, hey, your target balance should be blah, you should take this in account whether you're gonna use cash or finance.
Yes,
And in my mind, I believe Dan essentially has that in his head as he makes decisions based on rates and all these kinds of things, or recommendations, not decisions.
Yeah.
It'd be good to put that on paper.
That's what we're starting to build on this one that's right in front of you.
Okay.
yeah.
If you look right there, it says
Yep.
target CIP balance fund
Oh, I see that, yeah.
1.532.
Got it.
That is 50% of the 6-year
6-year
spending.
right,
Okay.
So we think that's a great place to be. It gives us the flexibility to move towards
Right.
cash, to move towards
Yep.
financing at that rate. As you guys know, just by looking at what we do, if we start purchasing some of that big equipment with cash, it's
It
gonna
goes
go
down
away
quickly.
quickly.
Right.
So I thought that was a good middle ground of
Right.
something to aim for before we start talking about, are we gonna mess with that nickel or not?
right,
I think what we've learned a little bit, especially as we started to spend cash, is in the last few years, the nickel's barely keeping up with inflation, if
Yeah.
that. So,
That being said,
And it's,
the
in
six-
theory, the tax rate's going to change in November.
yes,
And it is quite possible that the 26.2 will go down.
well, or slightly up, who knows?
Won't go down because tax rate's gonna go down.
well, no, but the total,
the tax
actually,
rate will
gonna
go
go up.
down.
The tax rate's gonna go down.
I agree, the rate's gonna go down.
Tax
but the-
rate,
But the
is gonna go
dollars are
down.
gonna go up.
but not a nickel. If the tax rate goes down, the nickel goes down.
Yeah, if you say a nickel on the tax rate, and the
Right.
tax rate goes from
27 and change to 26 and a quarter.
I thought it was the nickel was $100,000.
Stop talking about
No.
nickel on the
Value.
tax rate. Start
Nickel's on the
talking about
tax rate.
$26,200.
I agree, the nickel's on the tax rate,
Yeah.
but if the.
It started out as a nickel on the tax rate.
Right,
Right.
It doesn't have to stay a nickel on the tax rate. It can stay at $26,200.
No, that's just. an- that's
You
such
can
a
change it
good
to
term.
one, well, yes.
So hold on, what does the original approval say?
there was nothing.
There's nothing?
No,
There's approval every year of how
There's
much.
approval.
we just said we're
I
gonna
thought
add,
so
we're
when
gonna
we-
add a nickel.
I
We're
thought
gonna add
when
a
we
nickel
first started,
to the amount.
it was
No,
the amount-
$100,000.
We're gonna add a nickel to the tax rate,
We're gonna add it, but the nickel to the tax rate is the amount which the contribution goes up.
right,
The, the original contribution, to be honest, I'm not perfectly clear on how the initial
I
contribution was
am.
calculated.
I am. It
How's
was
it calculated? It started out,
the original was the loan on here
exactly, I know,
plus a cruiser
right,
and a truck, because that's what was due that year. That's where the original number came from, and we said we're gonna add a nickel, only a nickel to a tax rate. At the time, it was like $20 on a $250,000 house. It was the cost of a pizza.
right, exactly.
Adding a nickel to the tax rate
Right,
Yes,
shouldn't make it go down.
No.
It will only go up with valuation
right,
increasing.
exactly.
So not
It's
gonna
going
go
up,
down.
not
the
down.
tax rate is going to go down.
Yes, but the nickel is not gonna decrease.
But we
The-
haven't
the
been
nickel
basing
is
this
not
on a
gonna
nickel. We've
decrease.
been basing it
No.
on
Yeah, that's why I said
$26,200.
Right.
Understood.
So
Alright, so, but it, despite what it looked like a year ago.
Right.
This seems,
Yeah,
it's working.
it's working.
The other thing is, we're gonna have an unfunded balance amount once we liquidate a couple of capital properties that are no longer gonna be needed because we're gonna have new buildings.
Right.
So you're going to have that go into the general fund, and then decisions have to be made about that money.
Right.
And some of it could be shifted over to the CIP if necessary.
To offset some land. Which is causing people grief.
Yeah, that's a down the road discussion.
Yes.
But
Once the money exists.
it is a
But
bit of a,
even-
it is a bit of a carrot that's out there.
But it's at least the plan through, let's call it 28.
Yeah.
Because it looks pretty blank on 29 and 30.
Right.
The plan through 28 has us on a good track.
Yeah.
Equipment is being replaced. We don't have to raise more than we already say we are.
Right.
Fund, the balance is slowly increasing again.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is a solid plan unless somebody comes up with.
No.
And if people, well,
it's
if
a
they say, well,
reasonable
why
step.
did it dip? Well, the reason it dipped is because we paid cash.
It did what it was supposed to do.
It did exactly
Did
what it was supposed
exactly
to
what it's
do.
supposed to
When the
do.
tax-
That
Plan.
the
when there's
interest rate
cash
went up,
available,
we paid cash, so
We
we
paid
didn't have.
cash.
Absolutely.
and because of that, our financing cost is down over the last 5 years.
How much are we doing? So it says here existing CIP debt. So is our finance cost for 2024 that 276, 162?
Yes.
yes,
Yes,
And that's all the loans combined
yes.
that
Yes,
go out of CIP.
yes,
Yes.
that go out of CIP.
So,
And in
okay.
25, it's gonna go down to 209,
25, it drops 70,000.
plus whatever we decide we're going to finance in 25.
Got it.
Right.
but you won't see that.
But you won't see
impact
But you won't see
until
that till 26.
Yeah.
Which
You won't
is
see
why
that until 26.
that bottom line.
The bottom line is what we're estimating.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and the 26,
I'm gonna highlight estimating.
right. And there's gonna be another big drop going into
We
20,
don't know. There's a.
because we got loans that we're finally paying
Exactly.
off.
Yeah.
So as we move into this and develop a little bit more, that's really what we should be looking at. That's why
It's the
you'll
difference.
see it on the summary page, you'll
Right.
see it on this page. We're starting to add in that debt. One of the things I didn't like is we're looking at 2025 and we were putting the whole cost of a vehicle on the finance line.
Right. That's
And I
opposed.
really wanna see it broke out onto the cash lines for the next 6 or 7
Yeah.
years, so we know what we're spending. So we've
Right.
built this page to start to show
Yeah.
that without making the spreadsheet so difficult you can't read that.
Right.
there's a lot of moving pieces. in
Yeah.
this.
So essentially, this is saying by. Yeah, so our average is gonna drop a lot in the next 3 years. Yeah, for like, we're in the 900,000 now.
Right.
And looking out, it's gonna go to 400 and change.
Right, because
There
we're
may
not
be
gonna
some-
buy any more fire trucks.
Yeah, there might be some slight changes to that, but we're definitely gonna be trying to hover right around what we're bringing in, especially if we're once we get back to meeting our budget of
Okay.
the 50%. If that's where we decide that's where we wanna be, once we're there, we're gonna try to just hover right around that. Pay cash for more things to come back under, build it back up a little bit.
And so for these vehicles, what is a typical maturation on the loan? Is it 7 years, 5 years?
I
10
think we
years?
put 7 on most of them.
We did 4% interest for 7 years on everything.
Okay,
Oh,
Yeah.
well, for just,
For estimating
Yeah, for bridges.
purposes, so we can look at some of those, but I think 7 years for vehicles is
Yeah,
plenty.
Yeah.
We're expecting them
to
The
go
last-
8,
20 or 12 plus.
right,
So-
but I mean, like cruisers, we're expecting to go 8,
Yeah,
so we're
Right.
financing them 7. Oh, we're paying cash.
What are
or we're
all
paying
our
cash for some of them.
I'd
I'd like to pay
CIP
cash for
funds.
those as much as
The
possible.
cruisers, I
invested
mean,
in.
yeah.
what are our CIP funds invested in? And what kind of percentage are we
We
getting?
get, we get
Very little,
Yeah.
and that's pretty much demanded by statute.
right, you can't even
You
buy a
you really
CD.
can't do anything with them.
You can't even,
Why?
No,
By
because
law, you're
by
not allowed
state
to.
law,
absolutely no risk.
So in other words, you
Yeah.
can't invest them when the market is down to invest
No.
it in, say,
No.
like,
No.
because then you can
money
lose it.
market, but
No.
treasuries
No.
or anything like that.
No.
Could
Oh,
lose it.
No.
cow.
you can't
trustees
even
of
go out
trust
and buy a 30-day CD. Keep rolling it over.
Yeah, no, we're
Right.
dictated by law what we can do, and it's
Right.
almost nothing.
So that's actually a reason for making sure you don't keep your balance too high.
Right, cause you're
Right.
making 1% on the money.
Because why would you pay the interest? Like, you don't wanna go
Right.
finance something if you can pay cash. Because the money just sits there anyway.
Right.
You just want to make sure.
Yeah,
your
there's
money
certain
doesn't
things
go
we
out.
can, there's
Right.
certain things we can't.
Right.
Not to get too far on this, we'll talk
Right, right.
about it on Thursday, but we've done some CDs and stuff with the loan money
Right,
that we got for the buildings. And we have some big revenues coming, which is good. That's what we wanna do, but this little bit more dictated, trustees of trust funds will be looking at it and working with us and but yeah, not a lot we can
we're
do.
coming close to losing money on it.
Well,
When
Inflation.
you pay,
When you
well,
figure
no, when you're,
inflation.
you're also paying the manager money.
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, they're.
Who's putting it in 1%.
Crazy.
I'll start working. We'll see if we can get a 5%
You're
interest.
paying him a half, quarter of that 1%.
Get it for this business.
Yeah, Bank of New Hampshire, New Hampshire.
They pay a small amount to Bank of New Hampshire for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's giving them the stuff back. It says where it is. You're not investment manager.
Well, we never see their minutes, they never folks.
I know.
That's another subject.
Anybody else got any questions? Now, when do you want us meeting with the budget committee?
Over 10.
Yeah.
I think it's a 10.
Okay.
there's nothing else to discuss.
We have
right?
one more
They've got
meeting.
Some stuff to put
here.
together for the one more meeting for us.
We'll clean this up a little bit more and then we'll just overview the plan and what we wanna
Yeah.
present. You know, we can put some stuff together to show the 3-year plan. If that's really what you wanna be presenting.
Should jump the gun, should we make a draft of the slides? Just show the budget committee slides.
This slides kind of guy, aren't you?
Slides can
Because-
add-
But which slides are we talking about?
So
Probably this one you'd want.
the one that goes to town meeting essentially.
You want this one and you probably want the 2 to 3 years out slide.
Right.
I don't know, I think the budget committee can understand these pages. I don't think it's that complex.
I know the budget committee can. I'm thinking for the audience that will be present at the budget committee meeting, as well as it's work that has to be done anyway. And then I agree the budget committee can understand it, right? And so I'm trying to address, so
We could put it up on the screen, right?
I'll have PDFs next time because.
Right, that's what I mean.
I'm mainly thinking for the feed, like there's nobody in the audience
Right.
now except maybe.
Yeah.
Nancy, but, So I agree that people who are looking at this and who are familiar with this will understand it.
Right.
If somebody in the audience was listening to us,
Well, that's why I'm saying you put it up there. You should be sharing.
Right.
Up there if there's people in the audience.
because it's much more likely somebody will be attending the budget committee meetings than somebody attending.
Right.
this. And what else is being presented along with CIP during the budget committee meeting that week?
I don't have the calendar in front of me. I think it might be
You're the
compensation.
chairman.
I think it might be compensation.
Yes, because if compensation is on the list and CIP,
There's gonna be a
lot
big
of
crowd
people
there.
in there.
Yeah, there's gonna
And I
be
would like
a lot of employees out there.
I would like for then the presentation on CIP to be informative to
Yeah,
them
Okay.
too.
Yeah.
Because that becomes a trial run to town meeting.
yeah.
Because
So this one. And this with 3 years out.
3 years, I think.
3 years out, and then the rest of it is just one column.
So
We don't
that
show.
other one, I can't read from here, which one you.
No, the bigger.
Summary page?
Oh, yeah,
Summary
the
page.
summary, but
The
then
summary page.
the summary page,
showed you
yeah.
this one, but what he
He really wanted was the summary
one.
page. That one,
And that one,
Oh,
and
so
that,
All of
Not-
them, 3 years
all of
out.
them 3 years out.
3 years out.
right,
including the summary page.
Right, so,
But for our next meeting on CIP, please keep the 6 year.
yeah,
right,
I'm
Oh,
talking about for the.
The plan is
October
still
meeting.
6
for
years.
the
The
October,
plan is still 6
For
years,
the
thank you.
October meeting, because there's gonna be big audience in the budget committee.
right,
Because of the agenda for that meeting.
right,
I think we should almost do like because it doesn't really come up in the public hearing either, because the public hearing is just about the budget.
I know,
So the next time we present to the public on CIP is town meeting. So we
Right.
should almost consider the small trial run of a town meeting.
To do that, we can also add CIP to the public hearing. But
January,
February.
February,
it's probably not a bad plan, just start with the CIP,
Right.
it'll go
Right.
fairly quickly. And then we
And,
can move into
and
budget.
you know how those meetings go, but if you can address the comments in those meetings, you're in good
Yeah.
shape for town meeting.
yeah,
And
we
so-
can, I guess the only other group that we need to see it is the select board.
Yeah, and we can either do it, we can do it before the public hearing, sometime between the
Right.
budget committee and.
Right.
Right,
And my main focus is again that people are gonna go for the big numbers, the 2.5
Oh, I know.
and the 1.7.
well, yeah,
Well,
but
you can go to the
1.7, you get
select
to
board
say,
before.
that's grant money.
Yes, I'm saying that's an easy
That's a
one.
good number. They're paying for the
You want to Get
bridge.
this done even sooner.
No, you can come select board after the budget committee.
Right,
But what, like, and it doesn't have to be the final version. I mean, just let's make a step towards
right,
addressing the public at the meeting rather than presenting
Right.
to just a budget committee. Because I think last year too, there were quite a bit of people in the audience when we talked about these big sheets. And you could see it was a glare. Nobody had a clue what we were talking about. Yeah. And I think that's a big, communicating to the public is a big part of it. Because people will walk, if they don't understand numbers, they'll walk away with whatever they assume. And that could just be the wrong assumption.
mhm,
And then you hear your neighbor saying, they're gonna spend $2.5 million.
right. And we're gonna have to explain that.
Right.
At the budget committee meeting, that
Yes.
we don't know what the low is going to be. We can
Right.
tell you what we think it's going to be. What the forgiveness is gonna be.
right, that story should be, and I think the story is straight. We just have to make sure it gets presented at the budget meeting, because people will read the notes, people will look at the presentation.
Right.
We're essentially speaking to the public. I know, because my neighbor will ask me questions about things I said, right? And that's how I realized, oh, that didn't come across.
Yeah.
Correct. Anything
That's all I
else?
had.
I had one quick question. The floodway engineering, is that in process?
Yes, kind of. Yeah, we're moving, we'll have a contract. We should have a contract before the end of the year.
Okay.
The money probably won't be spent till 2025, but we'll have a contract and that money.
I guess that's okay. It's TIF money.
It'll be encumbered anyway.
Yeah,
It'll come to the select board as a contract, under
Okay.
contract, and
okay.
so, yeah, we are working on it. I just recently got information and contact information of a person that's highly recommended to do the plan.
Oh,
And I will need, if I put this together, I want to talk to them a little more, but if we do go in this direction, I'll be asking the select board just to authorize me entering a contract with this engineer.
it just stood out as one of the CIP items from last year that we hadn't necessarily heard anything about.
Yeah, I've been working with Pathways Engineering, and they finally came back and said, and I heard it from another engineer that said, we highly recommend you go with this engineer who's kind of the floodway specialist. So
Okay,
when engineers tell me I should go with someone else, I listen.
yeah, I think I would.
Anything else? Anybody?
Nope.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? You don't have to roll call, Chair, do we? No.
I don't know.
I don't think you
You
technically
know,
even have
we
to.
were not, it's non-debatable. Yeah, we were not in non-public.
Everybody.
Thanks, Brad.
Thanks, Brad.
Bye.
Have a good day tomorrow.
Better than today.